Hey you guys, I'm super excited today about harvesting these loofahs. They have been dried on the vine for at least maybe 3 or 4 months now. I like to keep them on the vine to make sure they completely dry out before I cut them to use. Now, the variety that I'm growing is actually different than the ones most of you may come across or have grown, which is something similar more to like this one here. This one was grown by my mom's friend. She gave it to us because they thought it was still kind of young enough for you to eat. Now, if you guys are familiar with loofahs, they are edible when picked young, usually for the more common variety grown. You can eat them when they're almost like the size of like a large cucumber, slightly like smaller than this size, but once they get a little bigger, it would start to firm up and get really fibrous inside, which makes it unedible. And in that case, you would let it dry out to use it as a sponge later on. And variety like these would be a lot faster to dry on the vine, of course, because they're much, a smaller loofah. The one that I'm growing, I wish I could tell you the name of the variety, but it's been growing in my family for many years now. Like this is the loofah that I'm familiar with. I wish I knew the name, but what makes this one really different than the more common variety is that these ones I believe was probably one of the more Asian varieties, which I believe is, been like cultivated intentionally to use as food. So tracing back when you let these grow out really, when it gets really mature, these ones would get fibrous and eventually dry out and would be like a sponge as well. But when you wait for them, when they're still tender and young, you can eat them. And what makes a really huge difference between this variety versus the more common variety would be that these ones that we grow they're still edible at like a size like this. Like this one here, you probably can't see the angle there, but it gets so long, it's almost like almost 2 feet long, I would say, and would still be tender and edible. So you guys be sure to go check out my previous episodes on, how these ones look when they're young, and that when they're edible. I've done episodes on like recipes, how to cook with this and how to use it and all that sort of stuff. So I'll link it down below for you guys or on the iCard above. Many of you guys have been asking for seeds about this one, and I'm really excited that finally I'm able to bring these seeds again to you guys because I believe I should have enough to share this year. What happened last year, if you guys didn't see my previous episodes, I've mentioned that this vine really likes the sun, and being in this narrow space, sometimes there's not enough sunlight for them, and so eventually the vine just wanted to go past the wall, our more private area, and so it was exposed to the public. Eventually it got stolen. So I was saving those ones for seeds and they got stolen. So I had to wait for an entire year, but now these ones are ready again. I'm so happy to say that finally I figured out a way to allow these loofahs to grow in this private space by putting up, basically connecting the arch trellis with this other trellis here. And to do that, I was using like Thriving Designs seed bites, which are these like these tools that you can snap things together. So it was really easy for me to build the structure to host these loofahs. A few things I want to point out to you guys about loofahs is that there are quite a few varieties out there, and a lot of people grow them, not as food, because, well, like I said, they mature really fast, the common variety. Squeeze them and make sure they are nice and tender, and usually they're edible when they're about like a size of like a really plump cucumber, I would say. Anything a little bigger, once it starts getting firm and really, really hard and dense and heavy, that's when they're no longer edible. Loofahs actually have different texture as well, and what I've noticed is that these ones here, when you dry them out as a sponge, they have a more finer weave compared to the more the regular loofahs or the more common varieties. So I really like that when it's more finely weaved together. I mean, at first it's a little firm, you know, but once you use it a few more times, it'll start to soften up, and it makes it like the perfect face and body scrub for me because of the more fine weave. It also makes a really great you know, as like a dishwashing like sponge or to clean stuff with, and eventually you can just compost it literally back into your compost bin. So it's super eco-friendly and really breathable because of all the weaves in it, and I love using this thing. I love the versatility of growing these loofahs. Like I said, when they're young, they're still like, you can grow them out really big and eat them, and then eventually letting them mature, they would become a really useful product. Now when you're growing loofahs, be sure you give them a sufficient amount of light, so in a very sunny position, and they really love taking in that water. Well-drained soil with, you know, a good amount of water in there, because these things hold so much water. It's kind of like growing watermelons. You know, the texture of this, it's kind of, think about, like I said, a watermelon. It's got these like fibers that hold so much water in there. It has like a texture of like a marshmallow or a sponge cake when they're still edible, these loofahs. That's why, like I said, be sure you give them enough water to grow. And this one here has been 2 years old now, this vine. It's kind of acting like a perennial here in zone 10, which is like in a place with more mild winters. We get about usually between low to mid 40s low in the winter here. We might get a couple days in the winter here about like in the 30s, but it's usually above 32 degrees. It's probably about 35, yeah, probably about 35. We get about 35 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 or 3 nights out of the year here. So it's not that long of a time to stress the loofahs out too much. But the stems do eventually dry up, and that's when you can prune them back when the cold is starting to hit. But I do leave about about 3 to 4 feet length of the loofah, and then, you know, just mulch the bottom heavily, which I do anyway here because it's a lot of like bark and then dried leaves that are placed on top of that space. But yeah, with a mild winter, I'm able to keep the vine alive basically until spring hits. You know, when the weather warms up a bit and the soil would warm up, you would start seeing new growth. So after I harvest these today, I'm going to cut back this vine, trim it back so I can allow more light through growing these things on the bottom here, these other vegetables. Let's get started picking these loofahs. Thank you. So I'm going to show you guys a size comparison of the two. So be sure when you pick your loofahs, let them dry completely on the vine before you pick them, because like this one here, when it's picked too early, it's been about 3 months or so and this thing is still green and heavy. It's probably, if I open this inside, it's going to be kind of like very stringy and fibrous, but still holding a lot of moisture. It is green like you see, as you can see, and this one here, obviously it's dried out, much lighter weight, and if you shake it makes such a great instrument, don't you think? All right, let's pick some more. Feels so good to be harvesting these finally. I was so heartbroken when, you know, these were taken away from me last year. Oh, thank you. Let's cut this one too. To get you. Oh. This one's like a baseball bat. Ow. These two actually came from the same vine. The difference is that this one was grown during the summer, and so it was so big. This one was actually last year's loofah. It was last winter, not this winter, but the past. Is that a hummingbird that just flew by me? Anyway, the loofahs here, actually this one was, well, I think we had like a few days of warm weather last winter, if I remember correctly. I mean, that's the only reason how the loofahs can actually mistaken and think that like spring and like the warm weather is coming, and so it actually had some flowers and eventually made about two or three loofahs. So when, you know, the plant doesn't get enough energy from the sun in the winter, it grew this. But this is super cool that it had loofahs, you know, in the winter. And then this is the summer loofah. Alright, with all these loofahs, let's pick one of them and open it. Which one should I open? So I just also want to mention that, oh, there is seeds in this one. I thought there wasn't any seeds. Alright, let's open these. Alright, to open this, I got a container. Just going to keep everything in here. Then, oh, okay, so these ones have seeds, but the seeds are actually pretty tiny. So these are just gonna go back in the compost. If they do happen to grow, then great, but usually I would like to, you know, save the healthiest seeds I can. There you go. So you can see the structure of this, how it holds water in between, and it's like so fluffy now. Alright, let's open the next one. Let's just pour this out so we don't mix the two together. Alright, you guys ready for this? Gonna open. See how the end here? That's where the flower used to be. Okay. I like to take a little moment to just feel so. You smell good. Just want to take a little moment to, you know, feel all the love and the gratitude. All right, let's go. Let's do this. So, oh, there he goes. You just pop the bottom part here where the flower used to be, and then seeds just come flying out. Open this up. You guys have no idea how excited I am about this right now, because I was not able to save any last year. Let's carry on with this. Make sure you get all the seeds out. Yay, thank you. So you can actually cut these in sections, and that's how you see that they're sold usually. Or some people, you know, slice them up and, oops, there goes a seed, and you know, put soap, like pour soap into it, so you can get like a nice bubbly, soapy scrub exfoliant. This is a really great exfoliation for the body. I love how, like, at first it's a little more scratchy, just like all things that are still brand new, and then after you use it a few times it'll soften up and it just becomes like a really nice massage and exfoliant for your skin. So that's the amount of seeds I got from one loofah. So if you guys want some seeds, they will be available on my website. I know some of you guys have been asking for this for such a long time, and so I'm so glad to be able to tell you that they are available now. So there it is. So I'll be sure to leave the links to the seeds down below for you guys to go check out. Here's one whole loofah that you can easily scrub your back with. Alright guys, thank you so much for joining me out here on this harvest today. It's been super fun and I'm so grateful for my harvest. You guys, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Leave your comments down below. I always love hearing from you. And if you want to see updates or, you know, things going on around here in real time, be sure to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, because I do instant updates out there, which, like, if you guys follow me there already, you probably have seen my loofah harvest like a little while back, because it does take me a little time to edit the videos and post them on here. And if you would like to support my work, I really would appreciate that. Please go check out my website at wendiland.com. I'll leave the ways that you can, you know, find me and to support me that way. Just below this video, I'll have all those links for you. Thank you all so much, you guys. Stay safe and healthy, and I will see you right back here in the next video. Bye.